Do you want to crush your early to mid-game challenges? You are in the right place. I will be sharing with you my Guardian Merchant's build, which is one of the builds that I'm using in the entire early to mid-game and crush any challenge that the game presents. The Guardian Merchant breaks enemy with critical strikes and uses gold to do its basic attacks, instead of relying on MP. This setup can debuff enemies to gain the upper hand in combat and reinforce your advantages with strong party buffs. This setup is particularly strong against bosses when utilizing the Knight archetype as the fourth member to redirect and tank heavy hits for the party. The build's archetypes consist of 3 merchants and a knight as its protector. Depending on your stats allocation for the protagonist, he can be the hardest hitting merchant in this lineup if he is built with pure strength and luck just like mine. We all know that merchant is good in farming in general, so I will be skipping the merchant's alchemy and lucky find passives, but this archetype is also effective in combat, using the gold attack as the main bread and butter attack to deal damage in exchange for money instead of MP. The gold attack deals almighty physical damage which is unblockable and can't be repelled. This attack is pretty weak, but because it has a high rate of doing critical strikes, you will be scoring decent to great damage in the long run and also score free half turns in the process. The Trader Summit's passives improves the item potency in combat, and it is one of the key passives of this build since we will be relying on items to sustain the party. The Trader Summit effect can be enhanced when the same archetypes are in the same composition, and we do have 3 merchants in this build, so medicines in general or Great Fairy Dust can sustain the party pretty well enough. Great Fairy Dust on the other hand is pretty expensive, but we all know that money is not an issue in this game thanks to the merchant archetype. Fire Dust passive is nice to have since the merchant is weak to fire and light. The merchant archetype will be used by the protagonist, and as for the build, I only have 3 slots for now, so Heat Up will take the first spot, which increases physical attack by 10%, and the attack bonus will increase since we do have 3 merchant archetypes present in this party. The second slot is flexible, but the safest bet is the Diligent Discipline, which is from the Brawler archetype, to increase the chances of critical strikes. Again, the effect will be increased since we do have multiple merchants in the party. If you want to be flexible and want to have an AoE physical attack, Rising Slash or Raging Edge are suggested from the Swordmaster archetype. These attacks cost a lot of MP, but since you do have a lot of MP to dispose of, it will be fine. But most of the time, I am running with a Diligent Discipline passive anyway. Shelter Formation will take the last slot from the General archetype, which increases the entire party's defense by 2 ranks. If you find this buff costly, Marakukaja will suffice as an alternative. All of the buffs that I will be mentioning in this guide are from the Commander or General archetypes. I rarely use the Synthesis ability Fortune slots since there is a high chance of missing because of its low hit rate, and I don't like resetting the battle, especially when a lot of turns have already passed. If this attack hits, expect great damage, so it's up to you if you will use this. All Reset Synthesis ability on the other hand is useful for stripping buffs when fighting multiple bosses. I will not be suggesting specific equipment for now since this is an early to mid game build. Just equip all of the best items that you have since the merchant archetype deals physical damage. Use strength increasing stats or items that increase all stats. But note that your protagonist should be slower than Stroll, and more into this later. Stroll is our second man in this setup because of his high strength in general. He will be the second merchant in this setup. His inherited skills will be the same compared to the protagonist except for the last skill, which is Formation Vigor, to buff the entire party's attack by 2 ranks. Or use Mataru Kaja instead if you find it costly. Stroll and the protagonist will be your main damage dealers in this setup, so you can use Rising Slash or Raging Edge from the second slot, and as mentioned, you can get these AoE attacks from the Swordmaster archetype. Nothing too crazy in terms of Stroll equipment. Equip any strength or all stat boosting equipment. Just a reminder, Stroll should have a higher agility compared to the protagonist since Stroll needs to go first later on. The third and final wielder of the merchant archetype is Heismei, a character with high agility stats and also our main debuffer in this setup. Heismei rarely attacks in this setup since he will be constantly debuffing targets, lowering their stats at every turn. His inherited skills will be the Kaja, so you can strip enemy buffs, and I cannot stress how important this ability in boss fights. The second slot will be Tarunda, so we can decrease the target's attack, and Rakunda will take the last slot to decrease enemy defense. All of the debuff abilities mentioned so far comes from the Faker archetype, so be sure to level it to inherit the said skills. Since Heismei already has a lot of agility, you can focus on increasing his endurance or equipping all stats increasing accessories for the equipment. Hulkenberg is the fourth member in this setup, wielding the Knight archetype. Her main role is to redirect and tank attacks, making use of her high endurance stat. The Knight archetype is one of the best early archetypes you can get your hands on, and the Knight's Proclamation skill is its bread and butter that can aggro enemies and redirect attacks for one turn. This is insanely useful when fighting enemy bosses. The Knight's first aid ability is pretty useful as well, especially when very early into the game. For just 2 MP, you can heal your party members outside of battle. The Ironclad Bond increases the defense of its wielder by 10%, perfect for Hulkenberg's build. Guard Lore is a nice bonus that grants defense boost at the start of battle. Heistmate can lower a target's attack and defense, so the Shield Arts ability of the Knight lower hits and evasion on the other hand. Slot in Heavy Rush from the Magic Knight, so Hulkenberg can deal medium physical damage to targets, and this is going to be her main damaging skill. While the last 2 slots are flexible, they can be healing abilities or another Dekaja to dispel enemy buffs, but in my setup, I slotted in Mataru Kaja and Maraku Kaja, so if the other party members cast their buffs, I will have 3 stacks of buffs as early as first turn. Like for example, Stroll casts Formation Vigor, giving the party 2 stacks of attack buff. Hulkenberg can then cast Mataru Kaja to have 3 stacks of attack in total in the first turn. In this particular setup, I really used Hammer of Justice for the Knight Synthesis ability. Usually when Hulkenberg is about to take her turn, the turn icons are already used up anyway. Equip Hulkenberg with endurance boosting equipment to further increase her survivability in combat. When playing this build, it is important to know what to use during the first turn. I call the first turn the setup, wherein you will be casting your key buffs for the entire party, setting up for the next turns to concentrate on damage. For the next turn, Heistmate will go first, and what I usually do is cast Rakunda to decrease the enemy's defense. Then let Stroll cast Formation Vigor or Mataru Kaja to boost the party's attack. The protagonist will then cast Shelter Formation to increase the party's defense. Then Hulkenberg will take her turn last, and you can either use Mataru Kaja to increase the party's attack or Maraku Kaja for defense. Depending on the situation, decide what you think what is best. After the setup, it is now to deal damage, and Heistmate will continuously cast Rakunda to lower down the enemy's defense, while Stroll and the protagonist will use Gold Attack to deal damage to targets. Hulkenberg either redirects and tank attacks by using the Knight Proclamation, or use Heavy Attack to deal straight damage. Another tip is don't forget to move the attacking party member in the front row, since they were moved back when you cast the Shelter Formation, or else you will be dealing lesser damage. Don't forget that your main healing source will be items, so make sure that the merchant archetype wielders are the ones who are going to use the items to take advantage of the item usage bonus. The Guardian Merchants is a setup that will carry you through the end game. You can pretty much follow this setup very early in the game, but you will lack some of the key buffs, but the idea of the build remains the same. If you want to know the best early to mid game grinding spot in the game so you can make this build, click on these videos and I will catch you on the next one.